Hello friends, hope you all are doing great. And my name is Sharjeel Makarab Khan, and today I'm going to present you Flutter versus React Native. Before proceeding forward, I would like to say that I have written a research paper regarding the same topic, which is Flutter versus React Native. So let me just show you my research paper. So it is my research paper that I have written, and it will be published soon by international research conference. So I will give you the link in the description, and easily you can go there and check out the paper as well. So now proceeding, Flutter versus React Native. So let's see. Alright, just forget the slide. Okay, so first of all, I need to introduce myself. My name is Sharjeel Makarab Khan, and I am a computer science graduate from Benazir Bhutto Shahid University, Lahori, and also I am serving as a junior instructor in Government College of Technology site, Karachi. Okay, and also a part of that, I'm also doing some industry work. I have been working in web development for a long time, probably more than 2 years, and for web I mostly use React.js, WordPress, and some other tools as well. Okay, so let's talk about the mobile app development, and also develop an mobile application for mobile by using Flutter. So I'm a Flutter developer as well, and you can find me on GitHub as well as the LinkedIn by my name, Sharjeel Makarab Khan. Alright, so today the agenda. So first of all, we will go through abstract. What is the abstract of our my paper which I have written, and then afterwards we will discuss about the React Native, the nitty-gritty of React Native, and afterwards we will discuss about Flutter, and afterward the comparison between Flutter and React Native. Alright, so then we will see some kind of application which is using in production by Flutter. Okay, then lastly we will go through conclusion. So what kind of technology stack we should choose, either React Native or Flutter, based on what I have written in my research paper. Alright, so I am just demonstrating my research work which I have done while choosing this topic, Flutter versus React Native. Okay, so let's go further. Okay, so first of all we will discuss about the abstract. So the abstract of my paper, the first point is the most demanding skills nowadays is mobile app development, as we seen in corona pandemic. All right, so the web and mobile application demand goes higher and higher, cause every business is shifting on online. Okay, so for that they need websites, they need mobile application as well. And if we talk about more specifically, like we are using Facebook mostly time on our mobile application, Instagram our mobile application. So mostly the companies going on the mobile application world. For mobile application, the shares is divided between Android and iOS. The major two tech giant, we have Android and iOS. The Windows are exceptions and the Blackberries are the exceptions, but mostly if you see in two cases, whether a person using an Android phone or an iOS phone. Alright, so further discuss this point, I would say that if we have an application and that application is running on Android, so we need to write some kind of separate code for iOS as well as the, if an application running on iOS, then we will write the same different code for Android. What it will be, it will be good if we write the same code that can be run on Android and iOS. For that the pictures comes in, which is called the hybrid mobile application. Now the hybrid mobile application means that if you write a single code base, it can be run on Android as well as the iOS. It's not like the native one, because it's, as we talk about the native one, we like to code in Android in Java or Kotlin. Same for iOS, we need to write code some Objective-C as well as the Swift nowadays. Okay, so it will be good if we choose the hybrid mobile application development, which reduce our cost, reduce our effort and the expenses as well. Cause if we write a single code base which can be run both iOS and Android. Alright, so I hope it makes sense to you. Now in my research paper, I compared between Flutter and React Native, which is the hybrid mobile technology. So what is the hybrid mobile technology? We just discussed right now. We just have discussed right now. And I just compared Flutter versus React Native in the term of efficiency, effectiveness, compatibility, community growth, documentation, architecture, developer productivity, test automation, as well as the CI continuous integration and continuous development support. Alright, so first we are going to talk about the React Native. So React Native was originally developed by Facebook back in 2015. Before creating, before it will be open source, it would be open source. It is mostly used in Facebook hackathon, and now it's been almost 6 years. In 2021, Facebook React Native is in the market. Okay, and it is the open source mobile application framework created by the Facebook. Okay, JavaScript mostly used in React Native. So for React Native we need to use JSX. So what is the JSX? It is also known as the JavaScript extension. It is similar like HTML, but there's a difference between HTML and XML. Oh, sorry, JSX, cause it is also similar like the HTML, but it is not a HTML, it is JSX. And for JSX you need to code in JavaScript as well. Okay, so React is emphasized on virtual DOM. So now what is virtual DOM? Before proceeding the virtual DOM, you need to understand what is DOM. So DOM is document object model. When you create a web page, any page, it will be create like a DOM. So like here we have our head, and here we have some kind of other roots, other node. Okay, sorry, other nodes. Okay, as well, like this is h1, h2. Okay, and h1 we have some kind of text. So this is the virtual DOM. So this is the DOM, which whenever you create a web page, then it will create a DOM. So React Native basically uses the virtual DOM concept, which can only be re-render only one component change is happened. Suppose I just change it is h1 to h2, it will not re-render the entire DOM. It will just re-render this node which is changed. So you can see that the virtual DOM concept is quite different as compared to real DOM. Whenever change happens, the web browser re-render the entire DOM, but in virtual DOM case, whenever the change occurs, it will only re-render that component which have changed. Okay, so that is the advantage of virtual DOM. You do not need to re-render your entire DOM. It is only be re-render the that kind of part which is changed. Okay, so afterwards in React Native everything is component. So what is the component? Component is nothing but let's say this h1 is component, that h2 is component, then the images is component. In React world we call anything as a component. Okay, suppose we have our web page, our web application, then the there's a picture of the user, that is also a component. The picture, the name of the user, that is also a component. Okay, so how we can create this component? There's two ways to create this kind of components in React Native. Okay, mostly you use class based components, which is quite harder, which has the Flux architecture. And the other way, the most modern React Native application uses the hook concepts. So hook is the functional based components, like you will call the components, you will describe the components in the terms of function base. Okay, which has the less code and more efficiency. Okay, so in Flutter we have props and state. States is nothing but a property, like we have object in JavaScript. We declare a person kind of object, and person will be have name, age, ID, so on and so forth. And this is kind of state. And props is nothing but a properties which can be passed parent node to parent component to its child component. Suppose we have a parent component, we have a child component which is based on its parent, and we can easily send the properties of the parent component into its child component by using the props concept. Okay, so in React also we have the state management tool. We use Redux for that, and also now React Native has introduced the concept of hooks like the use state hook, use effect hook, use context API. So definitely we can use for state management that as well. Okay, so let's talk about Flutter. So Flutter is a open UI toolkit developed by Google in 2017. It is a toolkit, so simply that's mean you can do whatever designing aspect here in Flutter pretty much easily. It is a cross platform, that means you need to write one single code that can be run on your mobile, your web, your both mobile applications like Android, like iOS, like web, like your desktop, like your embedded system. So that is like write once, read everywhere. ठीक है ना? Write once, run everywhere, run anywhere, Vora. Okay, so you can remember the Vora, which means write once, run anywhere. So Flutter is in cross-platform toolkit. So in the case of React Native, it is not like a cross-platform. Suppose you need to write the code of web, you need to write code in React.js, which is little bit different than React Native. React Native has some additional kind of properties of React.js. So similarly, you do not need to change any kind of stuff in Flutter. Flutter is good for your cross-platform development, means you have a one single code base and it can be run anywhere. Okay, no matter mobile, Android, iOS, your desktop, as well as the embedded system. Okay, Flutter uses the Dart programming language, which is a strongly typed programming language. That means you need to define your data structure before it using, like in React.js. In React Native, we do not need to specify the type of the data. We just put it into the let into the var. Sorry, var is now deprecated. We use let and const. And Dart, we need to specify the type of the data, like the int, like the float, double, so on and so forth. And also Dart emphasizes on null safety, which means we cannot put any value which is null. Okay, similarly to components in Flutter, we call everything is a widget. So whenever we create in Flutter application, it will create a widget tree. That means we have a one parent element, parent widget, that can be our root, and afterwards all the components are derived. Suppose like we have our parent component, sorry, parent widget, which is app. Okay, now app is derived different things like profile, user profile. Okay, and like some other stuff as well. So you can see here logout button, whatever. Okay, so you can see that the Flutter uses the component widget based tree. Okay, now Flutter is also emphasized on block pattern as well. In Flutter, we also use the state management tool like the set state. We have the providers block pattern as well. So in block pattern, we differentiate our business logic to our front UI. Suppose we have a complex type of application, we do not use both in at the same type in the same code. We can separate our business logic to our front UI. That means that are not tightly coupled. We can change it very easily and we can manage it pretty much easily. Okay, so let's talk about the comparison between React Native and Flutter. So that is the main part of our my research paper which I have done. So I will discuss about the comparison different aspect, like the programming language. Flutter uses the Dart programming language, which is strongly typed programming language. It is good for strongly typed programming languages. Render time is pretty much awesome. And on the other hand, Flutter React Native is using JavaScript. So Java is quite efficient as well, but it has little bit drawbacks in the terms of performance. Okay, so in my case, I will prefer Dart over Java. So installation process, if you are using if you want to use Flutter for your mobile development applications, you need to set up pretty much harder way, because you need to install first of all Git, and then you will install Flutter SDK, and then you will install Android Studio, then you need to install VS Code as well. So you need to install so many things. And for React Native, you just need to install the npm node package manager, and afterwards you will install the React CLI and you are good to go with React Native. Okay, so the installation process is React Native is quite simpler than the Flutter ones. Okay, So let's talk about the documentation. Now Flutter has very good documentation. That is not I'm claiming. Most of the developers, most of the users claims that says that Flutter has some good kind of documentation. Suppose if you want to learn about Flutter, you can easily go with the documentation. The flows goes very well. You can learn pretty much easier way. On the other hand, React Native does not have such kind of good documentation as compared to Flutter. So in my case, I will go with Flutter. Okay, so let's talk about the architecture. Now Flutter uses the Skia engine, which is based on C++, or on the other hand React Native is using the JavaScript engine. Okay, so if we talk about the performance, so Flutter has good performance over React Native, because if we use complex animation, Flutter would be the winner, because it is not converting the code into the machine language the way Flutter does, or the way React Native does, because React Native also uses the JavaScript bridge. Okay, on the other hand, the Skia engine written in C++, which means that it is little bit closer to the hardware. All right, so in my case, I would say that the Skia engine is quite good over the React Native engine, which is the JavaScript engine. And if you compare both of them by the animation, you can definitely you will definitely see that the Flutter has some kind of edge. All right, so let's talk about the features and API. Look, in Flutter we mostly get too many things built in, like material design, like the other stuff. Flutter has a complete I would say that the toolkit. Okay, you do not need to rely on third-party software, while in React Native we mostly rely on third-party software, like we have to rely on Redux as well, and some kind of other stuff, cause it is not having some kind of built-in functionality which Flutter has. So features and API, I would say that Flutter is pretty much good, because it does not depend on third-party software, third parties library, mostly in the most cases. Okay, so let's talk about the developer productivity. In this case, I think both platforms are the similar in the terms of developer productivity, because both uses the hot restart and hot reload option. That means it is similar to our web page. Whenever we change in our web page, we need to just type a little bit HTML CSS, and we just need to save, and whenever we save, when refresh, boom, the change happens. Okay, so in the same for React Native and Flutter, there is a concept of hot restart and hot reload, which means that you can also re-render. You just need to type your code, and you need to just control save, and the change occurs on your screen. Okay, so as compared to native programming language, native development tool like Android, like Swift, we do not have such kind of functionality, hot restart or hot reloading, because we need to just stop the build, and we need to change and again rebuild. It will take huge time. So developer productivity is quite much easier, and I would say that if in the terms of learning, now I will discuss about in the terms of learning. So Flutter, I personally think, this is my personal opinion, that Flutter has some kind of less learning curve as compared to React Native, because if you want to learn React Native, first you need to learn HTML, then you will learn CSS, then you will learn ECMAScript, JavaScript 6, and afterwards you will learn React.js, and afterwards you will come on React Native. While on the other hand, we just need to learn about Dart and the basic concept of Flutter. We are good to go, and we can produce a good application. And if you are doing the web kind of stuff in your past, then it will be beneficial for you that you will use React.js, oh sorry, you will use React Native, because it is similar to the web stuff. But if you are a guy who has the background of Java and C++, the object oriented stuff, you will definitely go for Flutter. Flutter has some kind of excellence over the React Native. Okay, so community support, let's talk about the community support. Now you can see the community support, which is quite much 50-50, because in the React has introduced React Native has introduced in 2015, while the Flutter has introduced in 2018 or 17. So you can see there's a little bit time difference, but now the community is now 50-50, because while announcing the Flutter 2, now it become the trend. More persons want to know about the Flutter, what is Flutter, how Flutter works. So community support is quite much similar now. If you see the stars of GitHub repo, like you go GitHub and search for Flutter, and you will search on the other tab React Native, and you will see that there are different kind of similar stars, like 44,000 something. So community support is like same. Let's talk about the testing. So in Flutter we have a very good testing, like we can write unit testing, integration testing with the help of Dart and with the help of good documentation. While on the other hand, React Native, we can write unit testing very easily, but whenever we need to we need to use the integration testing, the UI testing, it will be little bit harder. So Flutter has some kind of good testing stuff as well as the documentation. So let's talk about the CI/CD support. Flutter is having a great UI, CI, continuous integration, continuous development support. It is the well documented setup. If you go and search for Medium, search for different resources, you will get tons of articles on the CI/CD support for Flutter. While in the React Native, there's a less articles, less stuff. So that is also I discuss in my research paper. So let's talk about the technology trend. So this is the technology trend. You can use Google Trend for the technology trend. So I just search for React Native and Flutter, and you can see that the red one is Flutter and the blue one is React Native, and most of the cases Flutter is over than React Native. Okay, so now you can see that the more persons are searching for Flutter on Google. So here's the country wise graph. You can see the entire world mostly using searching for Flutter. What is the Flutter? So now you can see the craze of how world is searching for Flutter. The red one is Flutter and the blue one is React Native. Okay, so let's talk about the production in Flutter. Now you also know that the React Native used by Facebook, by Instagram, and some kind of startups. So in my research paper I widely discuss about the Flutter in production. So here are some companies which is using Flutter for in their production app, like Google Ads is using Google Pay. More than million users are using Google Pay for the entire application written in Flutter. eBaba Group is using Flutter. eBay using Flutter. Bed, the Chinese search engine, also using the Flutter. Toyota is embedded system, like in Toyota car we have dashboards, and the dashboards is completely written on in Flutter. Okay, also the Ubuntu Canonicals is the company which develop Ubuntu and look after Ubuntu. It also claims that the entire installation process of Ubuntu is now written in Flutter. Suppose you want to install Ubuntu on your local machine, and you will see the windows appear, and you will type your name, all the requirements over there. So this complete process and complete application written in Flutter. So Ubuntu claims it. Also Microsoft Duo is also using Flutter in their Microsoft Duo product, as well as the Dream 11, which is Indian based sport company using Flutter. Okay, so here's my conclusion. So what I have concluded researching this topic, Flutter versus React Native, I just got to know that the Flutter is quite high performance because it is using the Skia engine, which is really good for animation. So if you want to measure the performance, you can always check it by the high input like the animation. So Flutter has edge on React Native, and Flutter enables the fresh developers produce outstanding app in less time. Suppose, as I said, you just need to learn about Dart as well as little bit the basic components and basic widgets of Flutter, then easily you can produce this simple kind of MVP for your Flutter app. While in the React Native, you first need to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, ECMAScript 6, then you will learn React.js, and then you will learn React Native. So it will take huge time to learn. For freshies, I would say that you must go for Flutter. Okay, you can be productive in less time. So Flutter may be using in Google Fuchsia, but it's a operating system, and it will be future that one operating system will be in desktop, one operating system will be in mobile application and embedded system in smartwatches. So Google Felicia and next kind of operating system will be announced soon, and there is a lot of persons saying, a lot of articles saying the Flutter will be primary way to write application in Google Felicia. So Flutter has some kind of edge over there. Okay, so I do not have any kind of conflict of interest because I am also using React.js for my web projects and Flutter for my mobile application development projects. So that is what it is. I just researched and I just came to know that. So I hope you enjoyed my research, and it will be published soon. So also I will provide the link of my research paper. So I would like to say thanks, and if you have any kind of doubts, any kind of confusion, you can ask me in the comment box, and I will highly appreciate your comments and your questions. Thank you and take care. Allah Hafiz.